Míl mágad a caithfirla agus banna man ceist le na Treoracha Pleanála den na ceantair Ghaeltachta agus táiméid fannach le fad an lá agus bhhatlam just soléirú all maidir le stádas na Treoracha sin. I'm asking for clarification in relation to the promise section 28 guidelines for planning in Gaeltacht areas. And just, I didn't hear the answer to the previous question, but I'm sure the two overlap. So I'm really looking for clarity in relation to this. We were promised them a long time ago. Thanks.
Thank you, and I thank Deputy Connolly for her question. The interdepartmental group comprising of officials from my department, the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media, and Oidhreachta na Ghaeltachta is in place to support and accelerate the ongoing work in relation to planning guidelines in Gaeltacht areas. One of the key aims of the interdepartmental group is to ensure that procedures and systems will be tailored as appropriate to facilitate effective and consistent approach by all relevant local authorities in managing planning-related issues in our Gaeltacht areas. The interdepartmental group has been examining how current practices in the application of these provisions can be strengthened in the overall interest of the Irish language in the Gaeltacht and in the interest of proper planning and sustainable development, underpinned by a policy currently being finalised by the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media. This policy is critical and central to the development of the Section 28 guidelines for the planning in Gaeltacht areas, which my department is in the process of now finalising for my review. These guidelines will be subject to screening requirements of strategic environmental assessment, as well as screening for appropriate assessment. On that basis, it is anticipated that the draft guidelines will be available for public consultation early in 2023.
Thank you, Minister. Guidelines were originally due to be completed by the end of 21, then in quarter 2022, now we're in 23. Taoiseach has covered this, the committee has covered this, the Irish committee has covered this. We produced a report under the chairperson of Aonghus Osnoddy. We made specific recommendations in relation to it. It has come up at every single delegation that comes before our committee and when we travel the country. And at this stage, I tell you, I'm utterly confused. So we're going to have Section 28 planning guidelines for the Gaeltacht areas. We're going to have guidelines for the rural areas. Are they one and the same? Are they all in one? I don't know who. We're waiting then on a policy from the Department of the Gaeltacht before we get the guidelines. We have a group, a working group, which I welcome, but I'm not sure what they're working on. No disrespect to the people on the committee, but just in terms of where we are, we seem to be, I don't know what we're in, a bubble of some sort. Well, words would be helpful in addition to the signs you're making, Minister. I appreciate they're very positive, but words to elaborate on the confusion would even be more helpful.
Thank you, Catherine. And just to be very clear, there's absolutely no confusion here. A lot of work has gone on. Minister O'Brien has met with Conor na Gaeilge recently, who are obviously central to this. I have went round and met Gaeltacht communities right across the country, and in response to that, to underwrite, secure and ensure consistent and sustainable planning in our Gaeltacht areas, these guidelines are specific to Gaeltacht areas, going to be issued under Section 28. But, Deputy, we have to comply with environmental requirements, assessments, SCA and screening for AA, and that does take time because we have significant requirements to bring documents to public consultation and ensure those environmental assessments have been carried out, because if they're not, obviously there's a significant risk in terms of challenge into the future. And as I said, early next year, we will have these guidelines issued, as well as the rural planning guidelines, which I think will give a strong, sustainable statement to ensure that our Gaeltacht areas flourish, that they are supported, and also that rural planning is available in a consistent and sustainable basis, which is very, very critical.
Even the climate emergency, I have no difficulty with the importance of strategic environmental assessments and etc. That goes without saying, but we're not at that point. We haven't got the planning guidelines. So the delay has been on the part of lots of governments. Well, we're waiting on the planning guidelines. The people coming before us are not exaggerating. Everyone knows there's a problem with housing in Gaeltacht areas. It has huge significance for the Irish language. Without a sustainable way of living and houses, we can't protect the Irish language. I don't have the time to go into all that, and you're very familiar with it in the first place. So I've almost a library here. Will fill one shelf of replies, like other colleagues, following up on where are the guidelines for Gaeltacht areas. So you're telling me now they'll be published in January? Have we a date that they'll be published? Have we a timeline for when the consultation will be completed? Have we a timeline for the strategic environmental assessment that's necessary and the other reports? When will we have the guidelines, having gone through all of that process? Thank you.
We're out of time, Minister, but if you can just conclude then, please.
I think it's very important just to correct Deputy Connolly. The guidelines are there. They are physically there, and they have to be screened, first of all, for AA before they can be published. You have to screen them. That's part of the environmental process.
That process is ongoing now.
Absolutely, absolutely ongoing, and we hope to publish them in January. Thank you.